Morning, everyone. And that's the wonderful thing. Today's one is morning because Tommy preached, not Emmanuel. We all know what happens when Emmanuel preaches. When Emmanuel preaches. When Emmanuel. No, when I preach, I set the standards and they all follow, the ones that follow well. Tommy, well done for following me. Franco, this is our last, this is Francis and Femi.
Hi.
And
You just give Tommy a compliment now.
I didn't give Tommy a compliment. All right. Yeah, Barbara, not just him, I would like to be hugged as well. I think I've done well as well. All right, thank you for joining us. This is our final Q&A with this background, with this place. For you guys watching online, it almost makes no difference. It will continue the Q&A next year and you still see the screen. All right? But for us here, it's something. Now, because of that, you guys, whoever asks a question today, you have done a noble thing. All right? Now, we have one question from who? Ayobami sends the question. Everybody say hi to Ayobami. Yeah, Ayobami, they all say hi. I can't even find where is this. You found it. Franco, go ahead with the question.
All right. So his question is, I am going through the book of Leviticus and trying to contrast it with what Jesus says in Matthew 5:17 to 48.
That is 17 to 48 is how many verses? That's 32 verses. All right, fine. No problem.
What does Jesus mean when he says he hasn't come to abolish the law? But when we look at the laws at face value, it seems as if Jesus abolished the laws. Okay. Signed, Ayobami.
All right. Any other question? We got for 4 more. Temida has got the mic. He's not going to give you the mic, but we'll put the mic by your mouth. Anybody? Any question? Any question? Going. We have one question today. Good. Fantastic. So, Ayobami's question. Did you want to? Okay. I should. Okay. All right. Well, first of all, so you guys know what he's talking about. Jesus said he didn't come to abolish the law, but it seems like if you read the Sermon on the Mount from where he started, it seems like Jesus is saying, it many times says, you have heard it was said, but I say. And it's like, you heard it was said, he will quote something from the Old Testament and be like, but I say. And it's like, it does seem like you are abolishing some laws. All right, so let's start with a little bit of nomenclature. Jesus said, I did not come to abolish the what? The what? And prophet. He did not say, I did not come to abolish laws, right? And you may say that's just being pedantic. Nope. When we hear the law, or better translation, the instruction, these are the set of, if you like, instructions that God gave the children of Israel after they had made a covenant with him. So it is first the covenant and then the things under the covenant, the laws under the covenant. That's number one. So it's not just laws, it's a whole relationship. The laws are within a set of relationship, a covenant relationship. That's number one. Number two, when Jesus says, I did not come to abolish the law, he then says what he came to do. He said, but I came to fulfill it. Now, by fulfilling it doesn't mean he's saying, I came to say it should continue. By fulfilling, he's saying, the law was pointing to something. And what it was pointing to, I am the thing it was pointing to. I am the fulfillment of what the law was pointing to. So it's like when we think about temple sacrifices instructed in the law for the people who are in a covenant relationship with Christ, with God, the God of the Jews, is saying those temple sacrifices are pointing to something. It says when you see the high priest and the priests that do the sacrifices, that high priest that was instructed to, and his whole garment and everything instructed about in the law, it was pointing to something. Then he also says the law and the prophets. And so it's basically saying, the prophetic office, the fact that there are people that told Israel, this is what you should be doing, you have been unfaithful, and they even brought prediction based on the unfaithfulness of Israel, but they also brought consolation about God's promises. He says, you know the office of that prophet? It is pointing to something. And you know the prophecies that they gave? It was pointing to something. You know the issue of Abraham's family and the fact that there was a promised son for Abraham and Sarah? Yes, it was Isaac, but even Isaac, it was pointing to something. All of these things that you read in the first 5 books of the Bible, and specifically the rules that come as a result of the covenant of these people, they are all pointing to something. So don't think I am an enemy of that thing because I'm opposing the Pharisees who claim to be custodians of those things. Don't think I'm an enemy of those things because I oppose what the Sadducees are saying, who claim to be custodians. They are the problems when it comes to the law. They think they know it, but actually they are actually breaking it. Why? The main purpose of the law was to point somewhere, and I am the fulfillment of that thing. So this is what Jesus means. I am the true high priest, the high priest without sin, and the high priest that would make the offerings. I am the sacrifice. I am the temple. I am Abraham's promised offspring. I am God that was coming into the temple. I am the messenger of the covenant. I am all the things you read in the law and prophet. I am the true Job. I am wisdom personified. All those things, that's who I am. You see, so he's saying he is the embodiment, the fulfillment of those things. Now, even the covenant that was signed to bring a people to God, I am the one who it was pointing to. So, why is it that we no longer live under that? Because in Hebrews chapter 8, it says, for instance, you know that in the law and the prophet and the wisdom, even though the law says there is a priesthood that is after the order of Aaron, in the lineage of Aaron. But David, even when the Aaronic priesthood was established, David said that God is establishing a priesthood that would last forever. But it wasn't after the order of Aaron. It was after the order of Melchizedek. So even in the law, it also tells you that the law itself was temporary. If there was going to be another priesthood, that means the Aaronic priesthood was not going to last forever. So the law and the prophets themselves tell you that they are temporary. Therefore, if Jesus is the fulfillment of the law, and the law is saying that we are temporary, we are serving a particular purpose, when Jesus fulfills the law, then the law will no longer be in force as a covenant. So when it says the high priest is set away, the covenant is set away. If the sacrifices are pointing to one sacrifice once and for all, if that sacrifice has been made, then why do you keep making more sacrifices? And so Jesus is the fulfillment of the law, but because he's the fulfillment of the law, and the law is based on a particular covenant, and Jesus establishes a new covenant, then all the instructions that come from that old covenant are no longer enforced for the new people of God. Now, there will be some instructions that were in the old covenant that we also see in the new covenant. Don't say because thou shalt not commit adultery or thou shalt not steal. That was old covenant stuff. We are now in the new covenant. I can steal. I know it tells you can't steal. So there are rules and laws that still make it over, but we're under a new one. So I think that's what I can say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that Jesus, the way you explain Jesus fulfilling the law, especially in light of Christmas, just by the fact that Jesus Christ is coming, his coming actually is something that actually fulfills the law. And a lot of, for instance, Tommy preached from John 18 today. And I think in John 18, and I think the next chapter, it says that what Jesus was doing by going to the cross fulfilled what was written by the prophets before. So that's one way that Jesus himself embodies the fulfillment of the law. But then, even if you wanted to take it down to the actual elements of some of those laws, and Femi has talked about, a particular law like do not steal. There is the law of, and this is also a very important one, of, say, for instance, doing the sacrifices. Now, as Femi said, Jesus Christ, in fact, in Matthew chapter 5, when Jesus Christ is talking, he says that he actually goes further than the verse that we read to say that whoever relaxes any one of these laws, he condemns anybody that relaxes the laws and says that everybody should follow those laws. Basically, what that is saying is, when you take a law like sacrifices, for instance, the ceremonial laws, what we are supposed to do for what the Jews were meant to do for sin, it is not saying that those laws are to be completely done away with in the sense that you forget about them. But you are supposed to look at those laws and say, okay, what was the design of this law? For instance, sacrifices that was meant to be made for sin. That was what the design was meant for. God needed to be appeased because people had sinned against God. Now, Jesus Christ being the fulfillment of that is that one sacrifice has now been made for all those other sacrifices. And so, the only thing for us to do now is to turn, still having that mind of what the sacrifice is meant to do, but look to the ultimate sacrifice this time around. Still in the same sense of the fact that the death of Jesus Christ appeases God. And then the final thing I would say is, in Matthew chapter 5, to I think all the way to verse 7, Jesus now gives examples of how what his coming also helps to fulfill some of those laws. For example, he says, it has been said in the law before that you shall not murder, and anybody that is put to, that the murder should be put to death, right? And then he gives what is supposed to be the fulfillment of that law, that is looking at the intent behind the law and how he fulfills it, and says, it is not so much about committing the act of murder, it is about what leads to the act of murder, right? Hatred. If you hate your brother, that is where the problem is, and I have come to actually solve that problem. The thing that causes people to actually go into that act, that is what I have actually come to address, and that is sin. So you see that by looking at everything that Femi has said and some of all these examples, we see that it is not a question of the laws just being done away with. It's about seeing what the progression of those laws are leading to, or, as Femi said, pointing to, and how Jesus Christ himself, through his coming and everything that he teaches, helps to fulfill them.
Thank you all for Q&A in this place. God bless you.